Z Cool TV, where we are giving you various pieces of community information. I'm Michelle White. My guest co host is Marshall, and we're going to be sharing some things with you. We have a guest who's just running a tab behind, and she will be here to talk about grants for school. You have students, nephews, nieces, grandchildren. You want to be able to get there's so much free money to get for your children or yourself to go to school. Grants for seniors, grants for whatever area of your education that you want to get back into school, grants for businesses. So we're going to be talking about grants this evening. But before we get started, we're going to share some community information about jobs and other community events. So I think I shared with you last week that it's Roush is hiring. Roush is a national company, and they are hiring right now for automotive technicians. They have a full-time apprenticeship program for you, and they will pay you while you are going to work, pay you while you're training, on the job training. You go to www.pdworkforce.com/apprenticeship. That's www.pdworkforce.com/apprenticeship. Also, for test drivers, this is really a good one, Marshall.
Right.
Regular drivers and CDL drivers, full time and part time, flexible hours. PDW Workforce is hiring to test drive new model vehicles for students, retirees, veterans. You can tune in. You can. Um, they're paying $14 an hour, and it's all different shifts. For the morning shifts, if you have a CDL license, they're paying anywhere between 17 and 22 an hour. And if you, for compensation for CDL and haulers, $94,000 per year.
Wow, that's good one.
That's very good. For that one, again, you go to pdworkforce.com/apply. Again, that's pdworkforce.com/apply. PD Workforce also has 100 transportation and manufacturing jobs available in various areas, from CDL drivers, test drivers, automotive, shipping and receiving, mechanics, fabricators. You go to www.pdworkforce.com/apply. So those are some great jobs. And the Detroit Training Center has a new course that's starting on June the 27th. And uh, June 27th, I'm sorry, what does it say? The next course start date after June 27th. So they have Detroit Training Center has some jobs and things available for builders, and you would go to 313-221-5876. Again, that's Detroit Training Center at 313-221-5876 or 313-221-5544. Mishta has landlord engagement and outreach event on June the 23rd. It's via Zoom. And this event for landlords to enlighten potential landlords on how to connect with Mishta's housing choice. For all of you landlords that are out there, I know many people that have properties, landlords. Well, this is an opportunity for you to gain some benefits as you have your tenants. And then Detroit Recovery, the Share House, is having a Recovery United project on June 18th. That's coming up June 18th for Share House. We had Dwight Vaughtner on just a few weeks ago, and they having a Juneteenth Block Club extravaganza. That's Saturday, June the 18th. From 2 o'clock p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. That's at 1851 West Grand Boulevard in Detroit. They're going to have different guests. They've got Randy Scott, who's a jazz saxophonist, awesome, and Lauren Harper is writer, singer, director. So give a call if you need to call, if you want to become a vendor or have a vendor table at 313-894-8444 extension 2207. Again, that's 313-894-8444, extension 2207. And that's a fundraiser and opportunity for Share House, which is a treatment center facility. Also, there's going to be COVID talks and this is Detroit Health Department that's putting on these COVID talks um, about the pandemic, and much great information will be given. And that will be on June the 10th from 1 to 2 at Metropolitan United Methodist Church. They're located at 8,000 Woodward Avenue in Detroit. That's June the 10th from 1 to 4 p.m. at Metropolitan United Methodist Church, 8,000 Woodward Avenue in Detroit. And they're going to be talking about all different things. You know, these numbers are rising, and even my sister's going up to Mackinac this weekend, and I didn't like that. I said, can you get out of that one? Because I don't like that. Numbers rising, all the people, 40 people got COVID up in Mackinac. I said, you keep your please keep your face covered even while you're sleeping. That was the big sister in me coming out. But anyway, so this is COVID talks that they're going to be having at the Metropolitan United Methodist Church. Again, that's June the 10th from 1 to 4 p.m. So share with you about the Lions Club. We're going to be talking about grants tonight, and our guest has arrived, Gwen Thomas, is going to be sharing many different things with us about grants. You don't have to go for loans. You can get grants. There's a lot of free money out there. Can we all say free money? There's too much free money for you to have back yourself up with loans and things of that nature that you're paying on forever.
Right.
So one of the things that even helps when you're looking, I was at a high school today speaking, and when you're looking to just advance your career, you need to do some community service. One of the things that looks good for your resume, whether you want to apply to be on a board, to apply for grants for school and so forth. Um, if you want to become a Greek, get a letter and be for a fraternity or sorority, they look at what community service you're doing. Mm-hmm. If you're interested, I'm a Lions Club member. You hear us talk about the Lions Club, you hear about the different events and the things that we're doing. We had a ton of young people at U of M Dearborn that were out with us with the Kids Coalition Against Hunger that we did last weekend. We prepared 25,000 meals that were served. 25,000 meals. That's a lot.
Right.
And a lot of the young people, one contacted me today because she's still looking for other volunteer opportunities. Become a Lions Club member, or even just come to volunteer for different events. You can give us a call. You can give me a call at 248-238-4863. And again, that's 248-238-4863. If you're looking for some volunteer opportunities, I've got some for you. Other people, there are many organizations that are out here and available for you. Again, that's good for your youth. Our youth are, they get kind of spoiled today. We want to give them everything we never had, and they need to learn how to give back. Also, I interview the medical students that go into Wayne State's medical program. And one of the huge key things that they're looking for, they're not just looking for doctors that want to become a doctor and have good educational skills and knowledge. They are looking keenly at what are you doing in the community? How are you helping in the community? Because they look at that's a heart factor. That's a people factor. They're looking. And so when we're interviewing, we ask a lot of questions in that area.
We should.
And we should. Yeah. So we've got Gwen Thomas here tonight. Again, we're on WJZZ Cool TV Community Updates. We're glad that you've tuned in. Please feel free to give us a call. You might have some questions, some comments. The number here at the station is 313-355-6018. Again, that number is 313-355-6018. Feel free to call in. Gwen is going to be sharing a lot of great information. She has a wonderful book out where she's going to be telling us more about that as well. Welcome, Gwen.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and share with you all this good information.
Yes, we're excited to have you. I was just in a school today in Trenton High School speaking to students about preparing them for going to
Okay.
college. And a lot of the students, you really want to start your students thinking about college, when
Early
they're
as
young,
In
as
possible.
early as
elementary,
possible. Don't even elementary.
Yeah,
elementary
Don't
yeah.
school.
even wait. A lot of people that have children, little people, and they wait. Don't even wait for your children to when you see gifts and talents in them, help develop those.
Right.
These
Nurture
kids
them.
are
Yeah.
are becoming millionaires as little
Yes.
people.
Yes. It's
You know.
so important that we nurture them and nurture
Yes.
their dreams. If they say to you, Mom, I want to be a doctor, it's something
Mhm.
about being a doctor that they were intrigued by. And so,
Mhm.
as parents, it's your job to give them an orientation to the medical field. Every time you encounter
Mhm.
a doctor or you see a doctor,
Mhm.
whether it's in person or in television, you share with them the kind of doctor that they do, or good bedside manners, and
Mhm.
what they have to do as far
Buy
as
them a
school.
stethoscope.
Absolutely.
That what's that? They
Everything.
have a little cartoon. Some little girl, I forget her name, that she's a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and so you can. She has all the little things,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then some of the museums have like the Toledo Zoo. I took my little people to the Toledo
right.
Zoo because they have a whole area for whatever you might be
Mm-hmm.
interested in. They have a
Yeah.
doctor's area. Get them things.
And we cannot talk about that there is a need for more doctors.
Mm-hmm.
I follow the Department of Labor, the projected careers, and I
Mm-hmm.
share with my young people how important that is,
Right.
because we have to meet the needs of those individuals who are retiring. And
Mm-hmm.
as we have new illnesses that develop,
Mm-hmm.
and new medical research information that we have to study, it's important that our young people are on top. And so we have a lot of baby boomers that are
Mm-hmm.
retiring. And so there's a huge need right now for medical doctors.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little young lady that used to live on my block.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy to say that she used to talk about being a doctor, and she got her white coat the other day.
Oh,
I was so
wonderful.
excited. And I said, John, you keep me in the loop, because I've been watching you. You've been talking about you've wanted to be a doctor since you
Right.
were 12.
Mm-hmm.
And so she has matriculated now to her residency. And
Oh,
it's
wonderful.
just so wonderful to
Where is
see
she
them.
attending?
She's at Wayne State.
Oh, I might be interviewing her.
Yeah, she's at Wayne State. And
Okay.
so that's the exciting thing, is that she's able to stay right here with
Right.
her family. And
Yes.
let me just share with you,
Mhm.
she had a challenge, and she still overcame that challenge, and
Mm-hmm.
is still graduating at the top of her class.
Oh,
That's
wonderful.
Yeah,
important that
yeah.
students, even that's why at the elementary school level, when students have IEPs,
Yeah.
that they
Mm-hmm.
understand that there's still opportunities for them,
Mhm.
that there's assistance for them. There's people working with them with their education at the elementary
Mhm.
school. When I was teaching in elementary school, that was something you keep them motivated.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I forgot, Marshall, you had some community update information that you wanted to share with our guests this evening.
Oh, yes. Well, I have four things. First of all, those that are waiting for unemployment, I received news a few weeks ago that they are getting ready to pay those benefits out. So if people are getting unemployment benefits, just sit tight and you haven't received them, they are coming through. Also, the Detroit Urban League has a program for seniors 55 and older where you sign up and they will assist you with employment. Their number is 313-831-5591. Also, the state of Michigan, they are hiring for various positions, as well as Delta Airlines. And there is one more. I said I have four, but actually I have five. Also, Enterprise Car Rental. They also are hiring for managers in training and also positions as well throughout the state of Michigan.
Wonderful. So there's a lot of job opportunities as well as educational opportunities available for students. And one of the things that students don't know um, is that they can go, they don't have to get scout, they don't have to get loans
Oh yeah.
for
I hate that word.
I do too, because it gets you tied into paying back debt for years and years and years. One of the young ladies that I told about fastweb.com,
Mm.
and we're going to be talking about that. I'm sure that's part of your, or about that as well. But she did what I told her, followed what I told her. She got enough grants to go to school because you can get many grants, multiple grants. She got a full ride for school, plus bought herself a car and some clothes too,
Mhm.
because she just got that much money.
Okay.
And seniors don't even know that in Wayne County Community College District, if you're 60 and above, you can go to school for free. Can again we say
Mhm.
free?
I love it.
Free.
So there's a couple things I want to clarify, and so we want to make sure that students understand the dual enrollment opportunities that exist.
Mhm.
There are so many parents who are not aware of those opportunities,
Mhm.
and there's no reason why students should not be in a dual enroll program and be attending a high school and going to Wayne County Community College or Oakland County Community College.
Right.
And Wayne County Community College, I just can't say enough about the work that Dr. Ivory has done.
Yes.
Every time I go downtown, I just smile and I just remember where he started with Detroit
Yes.
and how many people said it wasn't going to happen. And look at it. There, it's one of the most well-respected community colleges in the country.
The high school that I was at today, when I spoke about dual enrollment, they have dual enrollment at Trenton High School, and they have many high schools we have a dual enrollment program at. And only one student raised their hands. That doesn't make any sense. Dual enrollment means you can come out of high school with a high school diploma and an associate's degree.
And you're saving on your money going to your 4-year institution or your 2-year institution.
Yes.
Those classes are free,
transferable
to a
to 4-year institution.
And you're going to save a whole year of college.
Right.
Yes. 2 years.
2 years of college.
Yes.
Yeah. And so we have to make sure these families understand. And so I spend a lot of time talking to parents because parents have to make sure that their students are on top of the game.
Right.
Now, a lot of students we know will, be on top of everything and know as much as they can, but they still need the direction of their parent. Just like you have to tell them to make the bed or take the trash out, you got to tell them are you applying for scholarships? Are you talking to your counselor on a regular basis? And so one of the things that I'm trying to do is stay involved in the high schools. The colleges that I work with, they get it.
Right.
Some of them have high school programs, and I come in during the summer and I talk to their students that are in Upward Bound or Trio or in Gear Up. And so I have those opportunities. It's just a little bit challenging to get into some of the district high schools because it's so important that they understand that they've got to get on the trajectory to win scholarships to pay for their education.
Right.
The grants are the Pell Grants, and there are often some grants from the state that are available to students. But for the most part, we want to get them on the track to win scholarships that pay for their full rides if they qualify, or the private foundations and institutions who offer those opportunities. The challenge we find that most of our students are intimidated by the process.
And it's not that hard. They don't even know. Fastweb.com takes you right to a lot of the corporations and foundations that are offering grants for school. And then they also will show you a sample of what the students, the previous winners, how they won, what their paper was. They might ask you to do a book on Atlas Scruggs, the book, read it, or who's your favorite hero, and you just have to read it. But they're intimidated, and parents, work with your students. Don't just turn it all over to them.
Yeah, you can't
work with them and help them in the grant process. Did you bring your book with you this evening?
I did not bring my book. Okay. I did not, but I brought.
Well, tell us about your book too.
I'll tell you my book. And I have another one coming out. I have to share that. But my book is called The Parent Smart Guide to Sending Your Kids to College Without Going Broke. I wrote the book based on my own personal experience and things that I learned along the way after my son won $500,000 in direct scholarships that paid for his degree at Morehouse. His degree,
$500,000.
Wow. His degree
that's $500,000,
and it paid for his degree at Morehouse, Johns Hopkins, and study abroad to 30 countries.
Wow!
And so I want to preface this by saying this was before the the scholarship. This is before the Common App. So the Common App now really gets people confused because now
Mhm.
you hear about, oh, this person won $1 million in scholarship, $2 million in scholarship. Let me preface this because nobody ever does. So that student who won $2 million in scholarships, they can't use $2 million. You can't. It doesn't cost $2 million.
Mhm.
So what that does is that money goes back to the pot at the end of the year, and you use what you're going to use. So
Can you use it for your 4 years?
no. So what I'm saying is that you're applying to let's say 200 schools. Each of those 200 schools may give you $10,000.
Mhm.
So when you decide, okay, I'm going to Lawrence Tech, and Lawrence Tech gave me $10,000, you still got to come up with the other 30.
Right.
If it's $40,000.
Mhm.
And so I hear from a lot of my students, and I'll say, well, I thought you were in the paper. Were you in the paper? Say you won $2 million. Well, they're back to trying to find the money. And so what I don't like about the Common App,
Now,
the
the Common App?
the Common App is an application that they can do one, and it goes to all of the universities.
Okay.
And the universities will use the same application, and they will say, okay, you have a 3.5 grade point average. We're going to give you $10,000. There's no reason why anybody with a 3.0 should not get at least $10,000 from any school.
Did you hear that? Say that again.
Any
If
student,
they have at
at
least
least
a
a 3.0, they should be able to get a minimum of $10,000
from any school.
From any school.
Okay.
Okay. Let's start with that.
Mhm.
Let's start with, they should also have some community service, what you've talked about.
Mhm.
They're demonstrating that I am a concerned person in my community. I'm giving back. I'm learning how to, number one, be a leader. I'm demonstrating this by volunteering for the Lions Club. I'm demonstrating that I'm being a leader by volunteering for this organization, for that organization. And so gone are the days that it's just based on academics.
Right.
You know, these students, when these companies, when it's all said and done, they want to believe that they're creating great corporate citizens. They want to be able to have bragging rights to say, you know, yeah, this student we gave $10,000 to or $20,000 to. I remember when they started, and they feel proud, and it's a part of their repertoire to say we help students.
Right.
So so parents should be getting their students, their youth, or even adults can go back to school. But they should be getting involved in some community service activities, whatever it is, something that's notable, something that's documented.
See, one of the things when it's time to write the scholarship, you've got to have something substantive to talk about who you are as a person.
Right.
Who are you? How are you developing yourself? You want to be a doctor, and let's just say, I've had an interest in being a doctor ever since I watched Marcus Welby. I'm just using that. Take it back.
Some people are saying, "Who?"
Right.
I remember. But they can talk about they were intrigued, or some young person may say today, when I heard about COVID and I learned about all the people who died, I wanted to learn about this disease, and I wanted to do what I could to make a difference because I lost my grandmother. I lost my sister. That's part of their narrative. That's part of their thinking. What is it that they want to do to make a difference? Now, I tell students all the time, COVID and Black Lives Matter are historical parts of our life. They should all be writing about it. And, in my classes in the last 2 years, I said, you should all have a paragraph in your journal and how did Black Lives Matter make you feel when you saw the young people, go to the streets and say, we're not going to tolerate police brutality anymore. We're going to stand up for social justice and equality.
And a lot of young people are really getting involved. It always takes the young people to really get out in the forefront and do some things.
And so I encourage them to, before it gets away from them, to talk about it and write about it.
Right.
And these are the conversations that are healthy conversations to have at home with mom and dad over dinner, over the kitchen table. We used to have those conversations.
Right.
When we were young, over the kitchen table. What did you think about certain things? And so that's important because it helps them begin to think and have a position and take a position. you know, and understand and review other perspectives about issues.
Right.
And so that's part of our name, Fresh Perspectives. We try to teach, that's the name of our nonprofit. And we try to teach people to have a different perspective on going to college.
Right.
Gone are the days that Black women should be raking up the highest amount of debt. And that's what we're dealing with now. More Black, that's the highest demographic. Black women have the highest debt for college. We're the most educated.
So tell us
Yes.
about how we can, how our listeners can get some of these grants. And please, listeners, feel free to call in. I'm gonna take a little station break. You're listening to WJZZ Cool TV Community Updates. Please feel free to give us a call on 313-355-6018. You can see us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. So tell us about how some of our listeners can get some of these grants.
Okay, so first of all, I've done a lot of work for you in my book, The Parent Smart Guide to Sending Your Kids to College
And how
Without
can they
Going
get your
Broke.
book?
It's available on my website at
Which is?
freshperspectiveseminars.org. If you Google me, the scholarship mom, I'm Gwen Thomas, the scholarship mom. If you put any of those things in there, Gwen Thomas, scholarship mom, or Fresh Perspective Seminars, it'll come up. My book will come up. So I've done some of the work. And in the book, I talk about what you should be doing with your young people as early as first grade. And I also bring up the most important point about what we should be doing with our boys as early as fourth grade. Because
what are some of those things? Can you give us some tidbits of different things?
Absolutely. So we talked about it earlier. We have to begin to help our students dream, because dreams do come true.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to help nurture those dreams. I do a program every year called Pursuing Your Dreams Scholarship Boot Camp. I do that in the summer. It goes around to various cities. And we work with our students as early as fifth grade. But let me just tell you this. Data is collected on African American young men. If you know anything about Michelle Alexander and the school to prison pipeline, by the time a young man is in the fourth grade, they're determining whether or not he's going to have a seat in a college or a seat in a prison. That's the data. ACLU created this first data point as it relates to tracking, African American men and how they were being dealt with, I should say, young men in schools, and they were being suspended at the highest rates compared to their counterparts. And so we want to, again, nurture our young people and give them an orientation to the various fields. And so one of the things in the book, we suggest that families have these discussions and orientations. We talk about as early as seventh grade is when students can start taking the ACT and the SAT. The average Black family does not take it until they won't push their student until 11th grade. Aren't you supposed to take the ACT and SAT in 11th grade? Well, if you know anything about the Indian population, the Asian Indian population, they take their ACTs and SATs in the 7th grade. They're masters in spelling. They're in every kind of spelling bee there is. That's just part of their DNA to be great spellers and participate in those kind of rigorous activities.
And I think the spelling bee was just last week or the week
before. We had an African American young woman win,
Okay.
and that was a first. And so that was exciting. But these are the kind of things, when we were young, it's funny. I go back to a lot of things I think subconsciously I do because I probably didn't do when I was younger. But one of the things that I read all the time when I was a kid was the Reader's Digest. So I had a high level of literacy as it relates to my reading comprehension. So that was something that came in the mail. I knew it was for me, and I read the Reader's Digest, the stories that I was interested in. We've got to teach our kids to go to the library. We have to buy them books because if not, they will be in front of the television or the the cell phone,
Mhm.
and they
Mhm.
won't get the kind of rigor, I should say, that they need to pass some of these standardized
Right.
tests. Now, the
So we need to keep
standardized tests,
strengthening their reading, not just online reading, but
yeah,
reading a hard copy book.
right,
Right.
right.
Mhm.
Um, and so I talk about that and making sure that they are college ready and career
Mhm.
ready. There was a show on television a few years back. You might remember. It was called "Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader?"
Oh, I remember that show.
Okay, and these were some very bright fifth graders.
Mhm.
But what data has told us is that is a heightened time for learning
Right.
when a student is 9 and 10 years old.
Mhm.
So, as parents, it's our responsibility to make sure we keep that student reading. Now, school is out,
Mhm.
and so
Mhm.
we have a
Give them reading
brain drain.
projects during the summer.
We have to give them reading projects during the summer because they will have brain drain and they will
Right.
forget everything that they've learned during those 3 months.
Mhm.
And so we
Now,
have to
some
make sure.
parents think that, well, they're getting it in school.
No.
School can't teach your children everything. They're only there for a limited number of hours.
Right.
Parents and grandparents, your
Mhm.
community, we have a responsibility.
Right.
Parents have a responsibility to teach their children, not just depend, I'm sending you to school. I've got you in a good school.
Mhm.
Well, that good school is expecting you as a good parent
Right.
to do some things to train your child, to keep them reading during the summer, give
Mhm.
them projects, make sure they're doing their homework. I remember when my son was growing up and the teacher said, don't just let him give the homework to him. You have to sit down with him and
Right.
do the homework, whether
Right.
he's in 5th grade or 11th grade. You
Right.
still have to help them along the way.
Well, parents really got a dose of that during COVID, didn't
Oh,
they?
didn't they? They got more than they wanted.
I loved it. I loved it.
Now, I know we have a lot of parents that have students that are in the, maybe the 11th grade or 10th grade.
Mhm.
Some getting ready to graduate
Mhm.
now, a lot of
Mhm.
graduates now. What information can you share with them that would help them if they're late getting started
Well,
with
first of
this?
all, the book has 500 scholarships from undergrad to PhD.
Mhm.
And so I mentioned earlier that I had did some of the work. So I've divided it up into, if you're going to be a journalism major, you just go right to the journalism section. If you're going into STEM, there's
So people can get grants all along their educational journey
absolutely.
for internships,
Yes.
for masters, for all of that.
Let me tell you this story, and I talk about this in my book. So when I began to think about college for my kid, it was beginning to get very expensive, and I was nervous about it. And I was concerned, am I going to be able to pay for it? I was a single mom.
Right.
I had a decent income, but I didn't think it was enough to be able to pay for college. And that means I might have had to divvy into my 401k or my
Mhm.
retirement dollars, like many families.
Right.
Every family out there may put a little bit aside and say,
Mhm.
I may need to use this, but it's not enough.
Right.
For the average family, it's not enough.
Mhm.
And so when it was time, as he was getting into the high school level, I was concerned, and I just started every week. I just started looking, and it was beginning to get close to the summer.
Right.
He was in the 9th grade. And I said, I should have him in some programs,
Mhm.
leadership, STEM, whatever
Right.
he's
Mhm.
interested. I happened to ask him, what are you interested in? What do you want to do for the summer? And he said to me, he wanted to act because he had been in an
Mhm.
8th grade play and he just loved acting. And I used to represent talent. So I said, oh my
I
goodness.
remember when I used to do jingles and
Yeah,
commercials with your company.
And I said, well, he got it naturally. He's been around me, but I'm saying to myself, I don't want him to act. I mean, don't you want to do be a doctor? So I'm telling myself, but I'm trying to, of course,
Right.
feed his dream. Okay. And so then I said, well, son, and now this is nothing but God.
Mhm.
And I said, well, son, if you want to be an actor, you have to study literature. I said, you have to study literature, and the universal literature that goes with acting is
I
Shakespeare.
was going to say Shakespeare.
And he was like, Shakespeare? Mom, I don't want to study no Shakespeare. And I
Wherefore
said,
art thou, Romeo?
and I said, no, this is the root of acting. And
Mhm.
so then I said, let me see if I can find something.
Mhm.
And so for a couple days, I'm on the computer and I'm looking, trying to find a program. And I find this program. It was called Cambridge Prep. and it offered a Shakespeare class. And I said, okay, it's got the literature. He'll improve his reading
Right.
comprehension. Okay, this is great. So it's late at night. You know how mothers are. By the
Yeah.
time we fold the clothes and get everything together, it's like 12 o'clock. You got to finish this assignment. And so I fill out the information and everything, and I see Cambridge, but I'm thinking Cambridge, Massachusetts. Because I got friends that was in Massachusetts, and I said,
Right.
oh, maybe we'll look up this. We're supposed to have an uncle somewhere in Massachusetts. This is me in my mind. Maybe it's okay, let's fill this out. I'm not thinking Cambridge, the University of Cambridge
Right.
in London, England.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not thinking that.
Mm-hmm.
So I pushed the send button before I realized it. So it's late at night. So the next day I go back and I said, okay, let me go back, make sure I push the send button and everything. And I go back and I read the program. I said, this is the United Kingdom. What is wrong with you? I'm going to the United Kingdom. He asked me about it. I said, son, I made a mistake. I didn't realize. We'll see what else we can find. 2 weeks later, I get a call from New York. I see the area code, and they says, we're calling on behalf of Cambridge. We're the United States representative, and we understand that you have completed an application for your son, and we'd like to find out if you are real serious in coming. And I says, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to waste your time. This is in the United Kingdom. I'm sorry, I didn't know. My apologies. And out of nowhere, here's God again saying, oh, by the way, do you have any scholarships? Now, he's in the 9th grade.
Right.
And they says, oh, no, we don't give scholarships. And I says, oh, okay, well, if you ever have a scholarship, give me a call. Left it alone. 2 weeks later, they called and said, we have an endowment. And now I didn't at the time know what endowment was. And I was like, oh, you do? And they said, well, can you get him there? And I said, I absolutely can. So let me just make sure I understand. You're going to pay for the program. How much is the program? It's $10,000. And all I have to do is get him there? And they said, yes. I hung up the phone and called my best friend and said, listen, we've got to have a fundraiser because I've got to take Cameron to London, England. And she was like, what's going on? And I told her about this wonderful opportunity because I asked about a scholarship. And I've been asking about scholarships ever since. And so that led me to say, if I've spent my entire professional career branding major companies, I'm going to brand my son, and he's going to get scholarships to pay for his education. And it worked. And so from there, people said, can you help my son? Can you help my daughter? So everything that I learned, which is number one, to ask about scholarships. You're going to ask everybody you know, because you are at the Lions Club. You might be at another organization.
The Lions Club just gave 13 scholarships to some students.
Yeah.
And Wayne County Community College District has several scholarships available
absolutely.
for students.
So what parents need to do is start creating a major list. And so if you don't win the scholarship this year, doesn't mean you can't apply again and win next year. And so you have to begin to first connect your network. Everybody that's in your family, you begin to have a conversation with them. About, Johnny's on his way to college in 2 years. We need to collect information on scholarships. And then
we've got people listening this evening that are connecting their network, that are listening, tuning in just to hear how they can get more information on scholarships for their children. I want you to call in. Feel free to call in at 313-355-6018. Again, 313-355-6018. Call in and ask some questions. Ask some questions that you might have concerning your students that you're trying to send to college, or even for yourself. For older adults that want to go to college, you might not be 60 yet, but AARP has grants that will help you with businesses, help you with starting a business, help you with grants for educational grants as well as, so the grants are not just applicable to just high school
No.
students, but there are grants available for business owners, again, for all levels of your walk in your life and your educational journey or your business journey. So we know that we want to have people, encourage people to purchase your book
Right.
and to
So
go
let's
to
call
check
it
it out.
in.
We've got a caller. Yes, caller. Yes, caller. Do I need to mute? Yes, caller. Good evening. Can you hear me? Thank you for calling in, caller.
Hi.
You can't hear the
Hi,
caller.
Michelle. Yes, can you hear me?
Is there more than one call coming in? We can go to the next call.
No, Deborah calling. Can you hear me?
But there's a lot of educational opportunities, a lot of grants. What we want people to be able to, we'll wait for that caller to come in, or whenever you can hear me, caller, just say something. I can't hear you at the moment.
Hello?
But we want people to be able to go, and they can go to
Fresh
Fresh
Perspective
Perspective
Seminars.org.
Okay.
And let me just share with you, we do a number of different programs that we work with students directly. We do one-on-one coaching.
Okay.
We also offer a few programs every year that are free. Because we know everybody can call me as a coach to help them through the process, because I am a personal coach that I work with students one-on-one.
Now we have people listening, not just from the greater Detroit area. There are people, matter of fact, someone just told me that is calling from Arizona, that is listening from Arizona, that said, Bill Turner.
Oh,
Knew
wow.
Bill
How about
Turner.
that? Well, the thing is,
who was my cousin, by the way, my first cousin.
I never knew that.
Mhm.
I never knew that. So we work with people all over the world.
Okay.
The book has
We
taken
do
me.
Zoom trainings
We
and
do
coaching.
Zoom trainings, yes.
Okay. And they can find all that out on
Yes,
Fresh
and I'll leave my
Perspective
number as
Seminars.
well. I'll give you my number.
Your number
It's
is
609
Mhm.
474
Mhm.
4877. So for a number of years, I was in Washington, D.C., and I
We've
connected.
got another caller calling in.
And I connected.
Caller, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful. What is your question or comment this evening? Thank you for tuning in.
Yes, I'm interested in, first of all, getting I guess I'll go to your website. I did see that the website is there. So getting grants, is it pretty much the same if what I'm going for is a master's degree. And so I want to try to get some, because I'm paying student loans off from my bachelor's degree. So I don't want to add to the student loan.
And I don't want you to add to the student loans either. So there, in my book, I have scholarships from undergrad to PhD. May I ask you what school you're looking at and what industry?
It's a master's in business. And because my bachelor's is in business, I just want to continue that. And I'm actually really focusing on HR, supply chain, that type of thing, because that's what my focus was in my bachelor's degree.
Well, very good. So business is an area where there's tons of scholarships, human resources. And right now, as you probably already know, diversity and inclusion, there's tons of scholarships and certificate programs where you can get your master's degree. We have a whole sector in the book on master's and PhD. And if you at any point are thinking about your PhD, and if anybody out there that's listening, you want to also learn about the PhD project. That program is held in Chicago every year. And so they're looking for African Americans. There's not enough African Americans with their PhD compared to our counterparts. So I want to encourage you to complete your master's and not get in debt. And it's just a matter of beginning to plan. So there is money for adults. A lot of times people get in school and they think the scholarships are only for incoming freshmen. That's not true.
Not true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
there are grants available.
And I have one other question, because my daughter happens to be in college at the same time. and she has managed to get a couple of small scholarships, and then she's working part-time. But she also is deaf. So she's at Gallaudet University in
Yeah.
Washington,
Yeah, I'm
D.C.,
familiar
but
with this.
but
I'm
we live
familiar
in
with the
Detroit.
school. Yes, quite familiar. Right off the line. I lived in that area for quite some time. So yes, have you guys done any other research for scholarships? Because there is money available. I mean, I work with more so any of the populations. I work with autism more than probably any students, but I'm sure that there are scholarships available. And then that's a part of her narrative. Any scholarship is available once you tell the story. What year is she in now, and what is she studying?
She is into her second year. She may have a little bit more than that. Her goal is, if not graduating next year, the year after. She's in criminology, and she just got a part-time job with the police in that area, but she's going into criminology, which is more of an analyzing opportunity for
Okay,
the
so
psychology
I
part of
just
the
had
criminal
this.
mind.
Yeah, I just had this conversation with some students. CSI is such a big
I
television
love it.
show, and everybody is want to get behind the criminal minds. And so I have to do this, and I encourage my students, because you have to really depend on where you're going to end up living.
Mhm.
Because a lot of these police departments, you will be in a police department, working for a police
Right.
department, and so where the big money is, as far as criminology is cyber security. And so that's where these major companies want to protect their data, and they're spending big money. And so you have to have that kind of conversation with your daughter to explain. If you go to the Department of Labor, they're gonna tell you what the top careers are, and they're looking for more people in cybersecurity. I'm gonna tell you this one little thing, and then I'll let you go. I was at in Washington D.C., and I was an executive from IBM, and she was related to remember Hidden Figures, the woman who went to University of Virginia
Right.
and who went to
Yes.
work
hmm
for IBM.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a unique story that she was telling us about making sure our HBCUs are meeting the needs of the industry. And it wasn't just the HBCUs, and we got off into another conversation, but the colleges are behind. They cannot keep up with major companies.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said to her, "You work for IBM? I haven't seen IBM in many, many, many years. Where's IBM in?" And you know what she said? "We're in banks. That's all our
Yeah.
software in the banking industry.
Mm.
That's all our security, all our security."
Mhm.
And so I want to encourage you to just have that conversation with her, because these companies are trying to get the biggest criminals there are, and those are the hackers.
Mhm.
Not be concerned with the thug on the street who's a criminal. You can't get paid from that thug on the street from the police department job. She may make 80,000 if she's lucky.
Mm-hmm.
So that's food for thought. Simply food for thought.
Okay.
I think we might have another caller. Do we have another caller that's trying to come in? Thank you for calling. Did you have any other questions or comments?
No, I said thank you.
Thank you so much. So one of the some of to just to recap some of the things that you've shared with us this evening is to encourage our children to dream. If they're in the seventh grade, they want to start taking the ACT, SAT.
Studying. Every student, by the
Studying it.
time they're sixth grade, they should have an ACT and SAT book,
Mhm.
because their students can get perfect scores. If you get a perfect score or get high ranking, you get a scholarship.
If they're to get them involved, increase their spelling, do spelling tests with them at home. If they can get involved in the spelling bees, get them involved. If they can get involved in some of the extracurricular, not just sports, the extracurricular opportunities at the school. You put them in a good school, get them involved in some of the programs of that good school, the debate team or the some other cybersecurity or some
And Michelle, let me
computer
tell you
things.
something else, and this might be hard for our listeners. Like I said, I work all over the world. I was starting to say I got involved with the Department of Education USA, which is Department of State And so my seminars have been heard in over 250 countries
Mhm.
because they got it. Because everybody, I don't care where you are in this world, in your heart of hearts, if you have a child, you want them to have an education. But let me just tell you some disheartening news is that out of 50 states, guess where Michigan is as far as the level of education?
Very low.
Very low. We're
Very
number 35.
Mhm.
And so that's why it's incumbent upon our parents to really push and do some education at
Mhm.
home. All these extracurriculars, crossword puzzles,
Right.
Scrabble. We've got to get them involved in learning more and more.
Mhm. Yeah, 2014, they discussed, we had a district meeting when I was at the district, and they said the ACT, SAT, those tests, they are making them where it wasn't like when we took it when we were younger. They want them to have conversations. So these words that they see on the test, they want them to be using them in vocabulary. Like it's just second nature that
Mhm.
they can understand how to break down the words, how to speak the words,
Yeah.
and not it's a foreign language when you look at it on the
Right.
test.
And so the other thing is, many years ago, we had the conversation about the ACT and the SAT lack diversity. It
Right.
didn't talk about anything related to Black history. Well, we have some students who don't know of their Black history.
This is true.
I bought some of the Black History cards. I
Yes,
think
I
Urban
love them.
Intellectual
I
has
love
those.
them.
I love them. And I even keep one stack out on my table just for
Mhm.
us adults because
Yes.
there are many, we see a lot more of the people of culture they'll show us different things only during Black History Month
Yes, right.
on Facebook or
Right.
whatever. But these cards are, and I'm learning more about more people that I didn't know anything about. But another thing we want to do before we end today is I want to, fastweb.com is another website that people can go to that gives you corporations and foundations.
We have to be very careful with fastweb.com
Okay.
because if you push too many buttons and they're
Mhm.
there, all that data comes to you, all a bunch of sales stuff. So I tell families to be very careful because they have your information. You got to put all your information in there so they know how almost they're watching every little thing you do. So just be conscious.
Okay.
And sometimes you push that button and it turns into a loan and it
Mhm.
turns into something else.
Right.
So you got to make sure you clear your cookies and your cache because other than that, they're tracking you every minute.
The thing I love about it though is it gives corporations and foundations that you can then go to that have scholarships available for students.
Yeah.
And so, but you do have to be careful with everything today that will clear your cookies.
Yeah.
I was on something today and they got me totally off. I said, no, I didn't ask for that.
Right.
Wow, how did I get over here? So
Right.
you have to be very careful with that. If we
Right.
have anybody else that wants to call in, we're here on WJZZ Cool TV Community Updates. Give us a call before we go off tonight at 355-6018.
I would
So
like to-
you can go to our guest, Gwen Thomas, tonight has a book called
The Parent's Smart Guide to Sending Your Kids to College Without Going Broke. It's available on my website at freshperspectivesseminars.org. The book has 500 scholarships from undergrad to PhD.
Does your program, does it work with students with coding? Because that seems to be where they're pushing younger students as well when you talk about the cyber.
Well, the thing is, we don't actually do any coding. We have gotten scholarships from Grand Circus downtown Detroit, which is a private coding program to give out to some of our students. We encourage students to participate in the many offerings during the summer that various organizations offer coding. I mean, these are the kind of programs we want our students to have,
Right.
second nature. So I push STEM because the Department of Labor says that is where the jobs are.
Mhm.
Everything related to what students are interested in, just like I mentioned about the student who was interested in criminology, we
Mhm.
have to take it up a step
Right.
and we have to look at it as it relates to 21st century.
Mhm.
Because remember, all of our departments are not fully funded. All of these companies let me just say, federally funded organizations or departments are not fully funded. If you go to the Detroit Police Department, they're not gonna have 100% of all the top stuff that you see on television,
Right.
to solve crimes. Look at this whole situation with those rape cases, and they didn't
Mhm.
even have rape kits, some years ago.
someone just asked me, how do I search for grants? When I go to the websites, they always want money.
Yeah.
for the grants.
Right. So one of the things that you want to do is you want to search for scholarships and not grants. Grants are mainly the ones for Pell Grants, and the state of Michigan will have grants for the Department of Health and Human Services. There are only about 4 or 5 grants.
Mhm.
The rest are scholarships. And so if you're interested in studying journalism, you're going to start by thinking about everything related to what you want to do in journalism. I tell students, if you have an interest, put your name on the job. You can't just say, I want to go into journalism. What do you want to do in journalism?
Right.
You have to be creative also in your search.
Mhm.
There's grants for left-handed people.
Yeah, right.
And grants for probably blind, or scholarships for people that are blind or hearing
Absolutely.
impaired.
Right.
And be creative in how you're searching what words you put in there. But then you can also go right to Gwen Thomas's book.
I've done a lot of the work for
She's
you.
done a lot of the work for you. How much is your book?
It's $32.
$32. That's a mere pittance
Mhm.
It's well
compared
worth it.
to the free money that you can get. Can we say free again?
Free.
The free money that you can get through scholarships by going in to purchase Gwen Thomas's book, and you can find it on freshperspectivesseminars.org.
Michelle, we've helped students win $19 million in scholarships.
Wow.
And we've helped students all over the world. My book has
Mhm.
taken me to Vietnam, Honduras,